Breaking 3,000 Brits just got banned from Europe, and you could be next right now. At this very moment, over 3,000 British travellers are stranded in airports across the UK, banned from boarding flights to Finland. Not because of terrorism, not because of a pandemic, because of a digital border system that nobody told them about. And if you're planning to travel to Europe anytime soon, you need to hear this, because what just happened in Finland is about to spread across the entire EU. It's 5 a.m. at Heathrow Terminal 3. Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old teacher from Kent, stands at gate 27 with her 2 kids, ready to board a flight to Helsinki for her sister's wedding. Her bags are checked, her passport is valid. But when she scans her boarding pass, the gate screen flashes red. Entry data missing. She's confused. The airline staff are confused. Within minutes, the gate closes. Flight cancelled. No explanation. Just chaos. And Sarah isn't alone. Across London, Manchester, Edinburgh and Birmingham, the same nightmare is unfolding. Business executives missing critical meetings. University students blocked from their study programmes. A retired couple who sold everything for a new life in Lapland now stuck in a Premier Inn near Gatwick. One man tells Sky News, "They said my passport wasn't linked to something called EES. I've never even heard of it." If you're finding this useful, hit subscribe now, because this story is developing fast and you'll want to stay ahead of what's coming. So what the hell is EES? It stands for Entry-Exit System, the EU's brand new digital border control designed to track every single non-EU traveller entering the Schengen zone. In theory, it's simple. Before you fly, you pre-register your biometric data, fingerprints, facial scans, passport details, all logged into a central EU database. The system is supposed to enhance security, speed up border crossings, and modernise European travel. Sounds reasonable, right? Except there's a massive problem. Most British travellers had no idea this was mandatory. Airlines weren't prepared. Border staff weren't trained. And Finland just became the first EU country to fully enforce it with virtually zero warning. This isn't a tech upgrade. It's a bureaucratic ambush, and thousands of innocent people are caught in the crossfire. Here's what happened behind the scenes. Finnish border authorities sent a directive to UK airlines just 48 hours before enforcement began. 48 hours. One British Airways official, speaking anonymously, told reporters, "There was no time to update our systems or properly inform passengers. We were completely blindsided. Our customer service teams had no training on EES protocols." When the first flights landed at Helsinki-Vantaa Airport on Tuesday morning, border control systems immediately flagged unregistered British passports. The automated response: refuse boarding at origin. The result: thousands stranded, hundreds of flights cancelled, and absolute fury exploding online. And now it's turning into a full-blown political firestorm. Conservative MP Daniel Hargreaves tweeted, "Another example of Labour's incompetence on post-Brexit travel. Starmer promised smooth relations with Europe. Instead, we have chaos at the border." Nigel Farage went live on GB News, his voice dripping with vindication, saying this is exactly what happens when you hand control back to Brussels. Starmer's government rolled over on border cooperation, and now ordinary Brits are paying the price. This is what surrender looks like. Downing Street insists it's purely an EU enforcement problem. A government spokesperson told reporters, "We are engaging urgently with Finnish authorities and the European Commission to resolve this issue." This was an unexpected enforcement decision that was not properly communicated to the UK government in advance. "We are working to ensure British travellers are not unfairly disadvantaged." But the public isn't buying it. Hashtag Starmer Travel Crisis is trending on Twitter. TikTok is flooded with videos of stranded passengers. People are absolutely furious. Because here's the thing. This isn't just about one chaotic day at the airport. This is about control, sovereignty and broken promises. Brexit was supposed to give Britain back its independence, the power to make its own rules, manage its own borders, chart its own course. But right now, British citizens can't even board a plane to Europe without Brussels' digital permission. The passport that once granted you freedom of movement across Europe now requires EU database approval before you can travel. And the worst part, this is just the beginning. The EES system is rolling out across the entire European Union over the next 12 months. Spain, Greece, France, Italy, Portugal, every single country. And if this Finland disaster is any indication of how the rollout will go, millions of British holidaymakers could face the exact same nightmare next summer. Imagine planning your family vacation to Spain, booking hotels, taking time off work, only to be turned away at Gatwick because your biometric data wasn't properly synced. That's not a hypothetical. That's the reality we're now facing. Let's talk about the real human cost, because these aren't just statistics or political talking points. Lucy Walker, a 29-year-old nurse from Bristol, was supposed to be a bridesmaid at her best friend's wedding in Helsinki. She told reporters through tears, "I saved for months. I bought the dress, I requested time off work, and now I'm sitting in Heathrow at 6 a.m. with no answers, no refund, and no way to get there. I've missed the wedding. My best friend's wedding. I'm just absolutely heartbroken." Gareth Thompson, a software engineer from Manchester, spent over £600 on emergency hotels and taxis trying to reroute through Sweden, only to discover that wouldn't work either. He said the airline staff didn't even know what EES was. They kept saying, "We're waiting on guidance from headquarters." I asked to speak to a supervisor. The supervisor didn't know either. How is that acceptable? How can they implement a system that nobody understands? Social media is absolutely exploding with similar stories. A retired couple who sold their cottage in Cornwall to start a new life in Lapland stranded indefinitely. University students missing their Erasmus study placements in Helsinki, potentially losing their entire semester. Families missing funerals of loved ones. Workers missing business opportunities. And the anger isn't just directed at Finland or the EU bureaucrats in Brussels. It's aimed squarely at the UK government for failing to protect British citizens. One caller on LBC Radio put it perfectly, her voice shaking with frustration. "We were told Brexit meant taking back control. We were told we'd have sovereignty. Right now, it feels like we've lost control completely. We can't even get on a plane without the EU's permission. What was the point? So who's actually to blame here?" Finland's Ministry of the Interior released a carefully worded statement saying, "Finland has implemented the EU entry-exit system as required by European Union law. All third country travellers, including UK nationals, must comply with these regulations. We have followed proper protocol." Translation, not our problem. Blame Brussels. The European Commission echoed that sentiment, with a spokesperson saying Britain was formally informed about EES implementation timelines months ago through official diplomatic channels. But British diplomats paint a very different picture. They insist Finland jumped the gun, enforcing the rules weeks earlier than other EU member states, creating chaos that could have been avoided. An unnamed EU source told Politico Europe, "This was an unfortunate misunderstanding. Member states retain discretion over implementation timelines. The UK delegation will be properly updated moving forward." In other words, a classic Brussels shrug. Nobody accepts responsibility, nobody apologises, just bureaucratic doublespeak. Meanwhile, Spain, Greece and France have all postponed their own EES enforcement specifically to avoid this kind of public relations disaster. They watched what happened in Finland and thought, not us. But Finland went full steam ahead, and now it's caught in the middle of an international blame game with thousands of angry travellers as collateral damage. And here's where it gets really politically messy for Keir Starmer. His government came into power promising competence, stability and professionalism after years of Conservative chaos and scandal. He specifically promised to make Brexit work, to rebuild trust and cooperation with the European Union without rejoining it. But now headlines around the world are showing British citizens physically blocked from flights, confused border guards with no answers, and a Prime Minister who looks completely out of the loop and powerless to help his own citizens. Even some Labour backbenchers are privately expressing frustration. One MP told The Guardian off the record, "We simply cannot keep being surprised by EU policy changes." If we genuinely want a close partnership with Europe, that means proper diplomatic coordination and communication. This situation was entirely avoidable, and that perfectly captures the contradiction at the heart of Starmer's Europe strategy. He wants closer cooperation with Brussels, but without formal alignment. The EU expects compliance with their systems, but without offering partnership privileges, the result, nobody knows who's actually in charge. And when ordinary British people suffer because of that confusion, it becomes political dynamite. So what happens next? The UK Foreign Office has launched emergency diplomatic talks with both Brussels and Finnish authorities. Airlines are demanding government compensation for cancelled flights and stranded passengers. Travel industry groups are calling for urgent clarification before the summer travel season begins. But here's the bigger problem looming on the horizon. The EES system, along with its companion programme ETIAS. The visa waiver system will be mandatory across every EU country starting next year. That means tens of millions of British travellers could potentially face delays, biometric, data rejections and boarding denials if the systems don't properly sync. Some travel analysts are calling this Finland situation a test case, a canary in the coal mine. If Starmer's government doesn't get significantly ahead of this issue, summer 2026 could become an absolute travel apocalypse for British holidaymakers. Brexit promised sovereignty and control. But what good is sovereignty if you literally cannot board your flight to your own vacation? Right now, over 3,000 British citizens are still waiting in airports, hotels and terminals across the UK for answers that nobody in authority seems able to provide. And that raises a much bigger, more fundamental question about the post-Brexit reality we're living in. If our leaders cannot even guarantee British citizens the basic right to travel freely, what kind of control do we really have? What did we actually gain? This story is far from over. The political fallout for Starmer, the ongoing EU border chaos and the potential impact on millions of future travellers will be tracking every single development as it happens. But now I need to hear directly from you. Do you think Finland did the right thing by enforcing this system early? Should Starmer and his government have seen this coming and prevented it? And here's the big one. Is Brexit actually working for ordinary people, or have we just traded Brussels bureaucracy for our own homegrown chaos and confusion? Drop your honest answer in the comments right now, because this debate is just getting started and I want to know where you stand. And if you want the real story with no political spin and no corporate BS, just facts and analysis, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a critical update. Because when the next EU border policy suddenly drops, and trust me it will, you'll want to know about it before you're the one stuck at the gate staring at a red screen. And this is the travel crisis that Westminster cannot ignore.